Good morning, you guys. Welcome back to Rocket City Yardstead. My name is Sarah. If you're new here, welcome. If you're not new, I'm still really glad you're here. And I promised you a Greek feast today. So I'm going to call this video Greek Feast in a Bowl because we are going to make a bunch of really delicious different components to make a Greek style bowl meal, if that makes sense. So we will have a base layer of lemon dill rice. Our protein will be lamb feta Greek meatballs. We're going to make tzatziki sauce with that yogurt that I was making the other day and Greek salad. If I have time, I will also go out in the garden and see if I can find any more eggplants that are ready, and maybe we can make some baba ganoush. I already have some in the fridge. If I can't find more, I will link a video for you of a really good baba ganoush recipe. So let's talk about the yogurt. I was making this in the last video if you were here for that. It's lactose-free milk is what I started with. And I added just a single serving cup of yogurt to this. We heated it up, we cooled it down to the right temperature, and then I put it in my electric pressure cooker for it to ferment at the right temperature for about 8 hours. And I am so happy to tell you it came out beautifully. So all I did once it came to time was I strained it and got some of the whey off so that it became nice and thick. Now, I used a nut milk bag and I actually tied it from one of the handles on my cabinets over there with a bowl underneath so it could drip. But to be perfectly honest with you, the very first time I made yogurt, I didn't have any special equipment or anything. And so I just lined a colander with paper towels and I poured my yogurt into that. It was sitting in a bowl and that was how I strained it. So if you want to do this and you don't have special equipment, you can absolutely do it. Paper towels work. So yogurt, cucumbers, a little bit of garlic, some dill, lemon juice, salt and pepper. That's all that's going to go into our tzatziki sauce, and it is going to taste so delicious. I like to get this going early in the day because, or even the night before, because the more time it has to sit, all those flavors have more time to meld and marry together, and it's going to taste even more delicious. So the first thing I need to do is get my cucumber shredded up. I'm looking for about a cup of shredded cucumber. I have seen people just slice their cucumber up. And if you didn't want to go through the trouble of grating, I suppose that works. I've never tried it, but one of the things that grating it allows is for you to squeeze out the excess liquid from your cucumbers so that you don't end up with a really soupy, runny tzatziki sauce. So that's why I prefer to grate it. But I also think that's the more traditional way. But if you don't have a grater or you like it chunky, just chopping it up small would be fine. Let's get a measuring cup and see how much that one cucumber gave us. Oh, I definitely think we got a cup. Maybe. Actually, a little bit more than a cup. Perfect. I don't mind if there's a little bit extra. So I think I am going to use my nut milk bag again for the cucumbers, just to make it a little bit easier on myself. You don't even need a bag though. You could just, ooh, can you see all that liquid squeezing out of there? You can just squeeze it in your bare hands if you want, but I just thought this might make it a little bit easier. We'll get a good amount of this liquid out of here. Now that our cucumbers are all wrung out, I am ready to add all the other ingredients. So this could not be simpler, you guys. You could just mince up your garlic by hand. I have a garlic press, and since I want my garlic super fine, I am going to use that today. Normally, I don't, but I just don't want us to be biting into big chunks of garlic. I just used 2 cloves here. Next, we're going to add the yogurt. I am going to put about 2 cups of yogurt in here. That's one of the nice things about using a mason jar style jar for storing things like yogurt is I don't need a measuring cup. I can just look at the measurements on the side of my jar and know about how much I'm using. So I am a big fan of not using more dishes than I have to. Okay. Of a couple tablespoons of lemon juice. Now, most recipes call for fresh lemon juice. I have a confession to make. I am really bad about letting lemons go bad, or limes for that matter. And so I tend to buy organic bottled lemon juice, and I think it tastes wonderful, and I don't have to worry about a lemon sitting on my counter rotting. So next I'm going to add some freeze-dried dill. Where I live, my dill has just not lived this late in the season. I think it's just too hot for it. I think it likes a cool spring. So we're looking for about 2 tablespoons of dill. I will tell you that the freeze-dried dill tastes just like fresh dill. It really is amazing. If you have a freeze dryer or you've considered getting a freeze dryer, then make sure you're doing herbs if you get one, because they are the most bang for your buck if you look at the price of freeze-dried herbs. Now I'm just adding the salt and pepper. But those freeze-dried herbs at the grocery store are really expensive. But the dill is amazing. If I did not have freeze-dried dill, I probably would have bought some fresh dill. So now I'm just gonna stir this all up. This is ready to go. That's how simple this was. I'm gonna put this into a container with a lid so I can put it in the fridge and let it sit for a few hours and just let those flavors meld. Now that we've got our tzatziki made, the next thing I want to do is work on my Greek salad. I really like for it to be able to sit in its dressing for a while and just sort of marinate. I don't know what to think of that. It's not rotting, but let's see if I can show you guys. There's some weird spots in this cucumber. It doesn't look like rot, so I'm just gonna cut that chunk off. But I've not seen one like that before. They don't have any holes on the outside, so it's not like it's bug damage, but it's just kind of strange. Okay, well, I was debating if I was going to need another cucumber, and now I know that I do. So we'll just chop this into chunks. I feel like you guys have seen me chop cucumbers into chunks a lot lately, but that is the nature of having a lot of cucumbers. Okay, so definitely going to use a second cucumber. I actually would have made a bigger batch of the salad, but I'm running out of containers, and so I'm limited by the size I have. We have, I guess this is going to be our 3rd salad that's got cucumbers in it in the fridge, just because we have so many cucumbers. But even when you're eating the same vegetable, you still want some variety. So if you've watched previous videos, you know I made a cucumber salad that's just dill and onion, the cucumber, and vinegar. And then in the last video, we made cucumber watermelon salad. And so now we're gonna have Greek salad that's full of cucumbers. This one, it's more of just an ingredient and not necessarily the star. So that's kind of nice. But I'm looking at all of the things I'm adding to the salad, and it's very exciting that they all came out of my garden. We've got the cucumbers. I'm going to add a couple of peppers, all of these cherry tomatoes, and even the red onion. Once I get these cherry tomatoes all chopped up and the other veggies, then we'll move on to making the salad dressing. I feel like the salad dressing is the thing that really distinguishes it as a Greek salad. I guess that and the feta and the Kalamata olives. If I couldn't grow a full garden, I think I would still need at least a couple of cherry tomato plants and a cucumber plant or two, just so we could still have that taste of summer. I'm guessing if you found my channel, there's a good chance that you watch Roots and Refuge, and she says that store-bought tomatoes taste like disappointment. And it's kind of true. Cherry tomatoes are a little bit different, but even cherry tomatoes, the homegrown ones, and when you pick them in the heat of summer, oh, they're just different than the store-bought ones. That flavor is just so concentrated and beautiful. Okay. Peppers. I don't think I've ever mentioned this, but I like to keep a basket with a bag in it so I can pull out my seeds and peels and things like that. Just have somewhere handy on the counter to put that stuff. Okay. Peppers. If you've been watching my videos for a while, you've heard me mention that I'm having trouble with stink bugs and their various cousins. And I had some peppers that were just so damaged. But I went out and put diatomaceous earth all over my garden when we were having a dry stretch. And I actually need to do that again because my cherry tomatoes are covered in leaf-footed bugs. But my peppers have just been looking so much better since I did that. So it was definitely worth the effort. So if you are growing anything that the stink bugs are damaging, definitely a sprinkle of diatomaceous earth all over the plants worked wonders for me. Okay, the last veggie is a red onion. The last time I cut one of these red onions up, it was very potent and I was crying. So hopefully we're not going to have that problem today. I might only need half of this onion. I might put the other half in the fridge. I think so. But for now, I can go ahead and add some feta. And I'm going to grab a fork so I can add some Kalamata olives. Kalamata, that did not come out of my mouth right. Kalamata olives. Maybe one more forkful. Okay, so now all we need to do is make our dressing, which comes together super quickly, and we'll have the second component of our Greek dinner made. This is going really nice and fast. All right, y'all, I thought, as with some of the other dressings I've made, we would just make this one in real time because it is so fast to make. So we need about half a cup of oil. I'm using avocado oil because that's what I have. A quarter cup of lemon juice. About 2 tablespoons of red wine vinegar. A teaspoon of oregano. Oops, I'm making a mess. What's new, right? Some cracked pepper. Salt. And Dijon mustard. This acts as an emulsifier in our dressing. That is all the ingredients, so now we just need to shake it up. So all we need to do is shake this up. And it's all emulsified. You know what? I just realized I forgot to add some garlic to this. And so instead of fresh garlic, I'm just going to add some garlic powder into the salad. And that will work and it'll give us the garlic flavor and it'll be just fine. But now I can just dress the salad and it's going to be delicious. And it can sit in the fridge all day. And those veggies are going to marinate in the dressing and it's going to be delicious on our Greek bowls. Y'all, they say that you eat with your eyes first, and this salad is so beautiful with all of these different colors. I did go ahead and add some fresh garlic because I remembered that I had my garlic tool sitting here already used that I just used a few minutes ago on the tzatziki. So why not? I did want to mention that the salad dressing recipe is from a website called Clean and Delicious. It's my go-to Greek salad dressing recipe, and I will link it down below. She has printable copies on her website. So this is going to get a lid put on it. It's going to go in the fridge, and these veggies are just going to marinate in this dressing all day until we're ready for dinner tonight. So I do have plenty of time, you guys. So we are going to make baba ganoush. I went out to the garden and I found several. They're relatively small, but I have so many flowers on my eggplants that I am just not worried about picking some small eggplants. And you are free to pick them small. You just don't want to let them get too big because then they get tough and stringy and bitter. So they're going to be delicious like this. But there are lots of videos out there with baba ganoush. Some of the channels I watch have made baba ganoush recently, but I do a few things differently. And so I thought it can't hurt to have a different idea or perspective on how to actually execute the dish. So I did want to mention, because I didn't know this until I started growing eggplants, their tops are thorny. So if you decide you're going to grow eggplants and you never have, they have thorns. Like there's one right here. I don't think you can see it. They blend in really well. They're camouflaged on a lot of these eggplants, but oh, you get a finger on it and it hurts. But so with these small eggplants, I am just going to chop them in half. I still have some garlic on here from a few minutes ago. And pop them into my air fryer. I learned recently that eggplants cook in about half the time for baba ganoush in the air fryer. And I am all about anything that will save me some time. So if you had bigger eggplants, most recipes recommend that you salt your eggplants and let them sit on a cookie sheet or something upside down in your sink for a while to get some liquid out of them. That is to help with bitterness. Picking young eggplants, I haven't really found a need to do that. So that's just maybe another bonus for using smaller ones. But I'm just gonna keep sticking these in this air fryer. I do have two varieties. This one I got from a local nursery and it was called Midnight. And I think it's really interesting. Its cap is actually purple and not green like the other ones. So we're going to cut this last eggplant open. It's kind of an awkward shape for cutting. There we go. And in we go. Now I am going to use spray oil. This is just 100% avocado oil spray, and just spray the top of these eggplants. And then we're going to put them in the air fryer. So these are pretty small. So I'm probably going to start at 15 minutes and check them. But a bigger eggplant, which is what I've used in the past, goes for about 20 minutes at 400 degrees. When I've made baba ganoush and I roast them in the oven, they normally take 40-45 minutes. So literally it cuts the time in half, which is awesome. So here's our roasted eggplants. With these smaller eggplants, that 15 minutes was plenty. So you'll just want to base that based on the size of your eggplant, how long you want to roast it. If they're bigger, you might need a little bit more time. So this is really easy. I just take a spoon and I scrape the flesh out of the eggplants. I will say sometimes the skid wants to catch on them and you just kind of have to pull it off a little bit. So it can be a little bit tedious, but it's not hard. So I'm just going to go through all of my eggplant halves and scoop the flesh out just like this. And then we'll be ready to make our baba ganoush. All right, you guys, so I have all of the eggplants scooped out into the bowl. So now we need tahini, about a quarter of a cup. I like to eyeball this. I actually need to get a spoon and stir it up a little bit. Actually, I like a butter knife better. If you're unfamiliar with tahini, it is sesame paste. So it's just ground up sesame seeds, and it's kind of like natural peanut butter in that the oils will separate out. So I like to give it a stir. So about a quarter cup, and I'm just going to eyeball this. I don't think I mentioned that I had about 2 pounds of eggplants here. So now we need a couple tablespoons of lemon juice. Just like in my other recipes, I'm using bottled lemon juice. A couple of cloves of garlic. Some oil. Calls for, I'm trying to remember, I think it might be about a quarter cup as well. I like to add a little bit of cumin and a little bit of smoked paprika to mine. Some pepper and some salt. And this is one of those things that I do have a recipe I'll link below that is my inspiration for this, but I find when using the fresh eggplants, sometimes you need a little bit more of one thing or another thing, just because the flavors can be different each time. So this is where most recipes I've ever seen call for you to either put it in a food processor or just mash it up with a fork. I like mine smooth, but I don't really love cleaning my food processor. And I have found that my immersion blender works really, really well. So we're gonna blend this up. You know what? I'm gonna bring you over so you can see how nicely it works. I don't want that to fall over. Alrighty. So we'll blend this up and then we'll see if it needs anything else. So here we have it, guys. A nice smooth baba ganoush. I am gonna give it a taste test and see if it is seasoned well or if it needs anything else. I think that came out just right. So there we have it. Really quick and easy baba ganoush. The immersion blender means way less cleanup than if I use a food processor. And the air fryer means it takes about half the time to cook the eggplants. So this is by far my go-to way for making baba ganoush. It is great as a vegetable dip, you know, if you wanted to put it on a crudité platter. It's fantastic with pita or flatbread. We will eat it with tortilla chips. But as you know, tonight we're going to put it on our Greek bowls. It's time to make our meatballs. So I have already added a pound of ground lamb and a pound and a third. I had to think about that for a second, of ground beef. That's just the size my packages come in. And sometimes I make this with all lamb, but when I went to the freezer, I only had 1 pound left. So the mix is a really good option as well. So to this, I have minced garlic. This is 4 cloves of minced garlic, and I shredded 1 small onion. We're just gonna mix all of that in to this as well. We need, it's a new bottle. We need about 4, no, I'm sorry. I'm doubling this recipe. So I actually need 8 teaspoons of red wine vinegar. 1, 2, 3, 4. You guys will have to tell me if you measure like I do or if you actually get measuring spoons out. I just can't bring myself to dirty up that many measuring spoons unless it's really a baking project and you have to be precise. So we need 2 tablespoons of oil. 1, 2. Feta cheese. Now, if you watched my last video, you know that I made that cucumber and watermelon salad and I used part of my feta. So this is going to be lighter than I normally would go on the feta. I would normally use about a cup of feta for this amount of meat. But our salad has feta in it, our Greek salad. And so I think this is not going to be a big loss. We're not going to really notice that it's missing. And then 2 teaspoons of oregano. Some pepper. Some salt. And a couple of eggs. I'm going to get up and get rid of these eggshells and rinse my hands off. Okay, so everything that we have put into the bowl to this point is the basics of what you need. Everything else is sort of optional. I see a lot of recipes for meatballs call for Greek seasoning as an option. I don't have any Greek seasoning, but I know what some of the ingredients are. And so I just like to add just a little pinch here and there, and it just makes them more flavorful. So we're just going to do a little sprinkle of cinnamon, not very much at all. A little bit of our freeze-dried dill. And is that everything I was going to add? I think so. I was going to add some dry parsley, but I pulled out my little container and I'm out. I'm sure I left it there as a reminder, which doesn't help very much when you go to use it and there's not any in there. I just need to add it to a list. But so I am going to put on gloves because I'll be honest with you, I really don't like handling raw meat, especially ground meat. I don't like to mush it all around and have it between my fingers. Not a fan. So gloves it is. Also, that's part of why I'm making such a sizable batch of this, because I will put half of this in the freezer and I only had to make the meatballs one time. So if you like to stock up, I think it's going to be easier if I hold the bowl. If you are the kind of person who likes to slowly stock your freezer up with ready-made meals, this kind of thing is a great option because you are making your actual dinner for the night, but you're doing minimal extra work. The only extra work really here is in shaping the meatballs, and you're getting a lot more meals out of that time spent. So let's see. Oh, it smells so delicious, you guys, even though it's raw. So here's what our mixture looks like. And I am going to use a scoop to make sure that we get them even and just roll them into little meatballs. I did forget to mention that I have the oven preheating to 400 degrees. I am going to go ahead and scoop out a good number of these and then I'll roll them. I might have to have 2 cookie sheets, we'll see. I'd kind of forgotten, it's been a while since I used it, but I need to get a new cookie scoop because I don't know what happened, but it's just not working quite right. So I got 1 tray filled up. It's definitely going to take 2 trays. So I'm going to go ahead and just gently roll these into balls, just like this. Nothing fancy here. I'm sure most of you have probably made meatballs at one point or another in your life, but I want to be gentle with them because I don't want to compact them too much. They're already a little bit denser than a lot of meatballs because they don't have, what's the word I want? Some kind of filler. They don't have bread or, you know what, this meatball's a little small. That scooper messes things up every once in a while just because it's not working right. But because they don't have a filler, they tend to be a little bit denser anyway. No breadcrumbs, no oats or anything like that. And so I just like to be really gentle while I'm rolling them into balls. So I did want to show you, once I rolled them all up, they did all fit on 1 tray. I thought I remembered them fitting all on 1 tray in the past, but it's been about a year since I've made these, and so I thought I was remembering wrong, but I wasn't. Our meatballs are in the oven, and so it's time to get going on our rice. So the first thing I'm going to do is put a little bit of oil into my pan and get my onion sauteing a bit. This is the other half of the onion that we used in the Greek salad. So we're just gonna cook this until it starts to soften up a little bit. And while that's doing that, I'm going to measure out my rice. Ooh, that onion's strong once that heat hit it. So this will probably just go for about 5 minutes. Not really looking to caramelize them. We're more just looking for them to start becoming translucent and soften up a little bit. Okay, so our onions are softening up nicely, and so I am going to add the rice in and just cook it for a few minutes until it starts to get a little bit toasty. And you can see when that happens because it starts to just get a little bit golden in color. So I think I will bring you guys over here and have you look down in the pot so you can see when that change starts to happen. All right, so I am just going to keep stirring this until we start seeing a little bit of golden color on here. You can see what it looks like right now. So this will probably take about 5 minutes. And I won't make you watch that whole time, you guys. I'll bring you back when it's the nice toasty color we want it to be. All right, you guys, so the meatballs have been in the oven for 15 minutes. You can see they're getting well cooked, but I want those tops brown. So we are gonna switch this over to the broiler now. This is not showing up quite as well on the camera as I would like it to, but there's some really lovely toasty grains of rice in here, and I can smell that it's nice and toasty. So it is time to add our liquid and some seasonings. So I am using turkey broth today. Ooh, because that is what I have. I don't know if you could hear me over that sound. I'm using turkey broth today because that is what I would have on hand. Normally, you would use a chicken broth here. But I don't have that. So depending on the ratios you want to make of this, I use about 1 3/4 cups liquid to a cup of rice. I used more than that because I used 1.5 cups today. Now that is different than what my package of rice calls for. I'm also adding some salt. That's different than what my rice package calls for, but I've found ever since I got my induction cooktop that rice does better at a lower temperature for simmering with a little bit more water. So if you normally just use the directions, on your rice package, then that's what I would do as far as ratios go. So that's not all I was going to do. I was going to add a little bit of garlic powder. So if you had fresh lemons for this is where you would add some lemon zest. But as you know from the other recipes today, I just have lemon juice and it will still be delicious. But we will add that after the rice is cooked along with our dill. So I am going to let this come up to, I'm going to allow this to come up to a boil and then get my lid on and cook it for 18 minutes. We are almost there. The rice is cooked and now I just need to add 2 more ingredients. We're going to add a couple of tablespoons of lemon juice. and some of our freeze-dried dill. And I want a nice big bunch of this dill in here. Now, the freeze-dried dill is a little crunchy. If you were using fresh dill, you could just stir it in and eat it right away. Because I am using the freeze-dried dill, I am going to fluff my rice here and get it all stirred in and put the lid back on for a minute or two, just so it can reconstitute and not be crunchy anymore. Whew, it has been quite the day in the kitchen, you guys. So here it is, our Greek feast. I wanted to go ahead and plate it up on a platter because the truth is, the amount of food I made, it's enough that you could have a dinner party for maybe 6 to 8 people, depending on how much people eat. A lot of this will go in the freezer for me and my mom, which is fantastic because we love leftovers and we love things that we can pull out of the freezer to make easy meals. But I feel like anybody who came to a dinner party would be thrilled to have a meal like this. So I did promise you a Greek feast in a bowl. And so I fixed up what it would look like if I was fixing it just for me and my mom. We have rice down underneath. We have our meatballs, the salad, and just a dollop of the baba ganoush and the tzatziki sauce. And then you can grab whatever you want to eat. Get a little tzatziki sauce with each bite or baba ganoush. And so I hope you've enjoyed this video. I hope it inspires you to make something fun. This is a great way to use up some of my garden ingredients, but it's also fun and it's beautiful and it's delicious and it keeps things in the kitchen interesting instead of just making the same thing over and over, right? So let's try a little bit, shall we? I feel like it would be weird if I made this big meal and didn't try a little bit. So I'm going to try a little meatball with some rice and a little tzatziki here. You guys, it is some work. I'm not going to lie. But some of these ingredients you could make on different days if you wanted. The tzatziki is great in the fridge for days. And it just like keeps tasting better and better because of those flavors just melding together even more. The baba ganoush is the same way. And so the other 3 ingredients really don't take all that much time. The salad is quick to throw together. The meatballs took maybe 15 minutes to put together and then they had to cook. The rice is really quick. So I would just encourage you. You want to do something like this, you can do it. It's not that hard, I promise. So I hope you guys enjoyed spending the day in the kitchen with me while I made this Greek feast. Thanks so much for hanging out with me. I hope you have a wonderful day and I will see you next time. Bye.